Welcome back to the show. Tomorrow marks Remembrance Day, where we take time to pause and reflect on the sacrifices made by generations before.
In taking the time to reflect, the folks at Ancestry.com are helping Aussies look back at their family history during wartime. And what our next guest found was incredible. Our very own Sylvia Jeffreys and Jason Reeves of Ancestry join us now.
Hi,
Good morning, guys.
Good to be here.
So, Jason, you helped Sylvia delve into her family tree. What have you found?
Well, Ancestry is home to over 40 billion historical records, so unsurprisingly, we managed to find quite a bit, actually. But with Remembrance Day tomorrow, we wanted to focus on whether Sylvia had any ancestors that served within World War II, and we actually found quite a bit.
Okay, reveal. Because this, I'm sure, I know you, Sylvia, this would have made you pretty emotional.
Well, as you know, we know that there is a direct connection to my grandpa, Neil Russell, who served in World War II, and that's something that my family has long been very proud of and invested in as well. But there are other details, I think, on the periphery that we haven't been aware of in the past. So, yeah, very interested to hear what you've dug up, Jason.
That's right. So we know that Neil, he won a Distinguished Conduct Medal, but it wasn't just Neil who served. Actually, his two brothers served as well.
Wow.
So all three brothers.
Grandpa on the left of the screen, Neil Hamilton Russell,
Yeah.
and his brothers, Wallace and Douglas.
Wow.
And so they all enlisted voluntarily. They served in multiple campaigns. And you can actually track their movements through the service records on Ancestry.
And were you able to glean any more information? Did you know that?
Well, I of course knew that Grandpa
Yeah.
served. We knew that his brothers Wallace and Douglas served as well. We were also aware that Douglas very sadly died as a prisoner of war. He died working on the Thai-Burma Railway. And Grandpa did speak about that at times throughout his life, but very briefly. He was someone who really always focused, I think, on the adventure of war and the mateship of war, but very rarely allowed himself to drift into those sadder moments.
Even these sheets, right? I mean, this information that you're able to dig up,
Yeah,
the
the documents.
most tiny detail that reveals something about someone who's no longer with us is so important.
That's exactly right. It's often those tiny details that help us connect to our ancestors. And as you mentioned, even in those service records, you've got things like, you know, an infection from an insect bite. And so it's those really kind of little human things that help us make that connection with, you know, somebody who's a very big part of our own individual stories.
Sylvia, was it really emotional going through the process?
Well, it is really emotional. It's always been emotional reflecting for us on Grandpa's service. He signed up at the outbreak of the war. He was only 22 years old. So for a 22-year-old, I think to immediately jump at that as though it's an opportunity, you know, to serve on the front line is really remarkable. And we have also found citations from his DCM as well, where his superiors have described his actions, particularly in the field of Tobruk, where he received that DCM for his bravery as well. So those little markers of time throughout Grandpa's life provide such a strong anchor for us, I think, in our identity still today.
I remember being in Villers-Bretonneux for one of the anniversaries, I think the 90th, more than 10 years ago now, but I was broadcasting from there in the morning, and Australians were literally going to Villers-Bretonneux and seeing their names and seeing where their loved ones were buried. And Mum texted me and said, your great-grandfather was a stretcher bearer. And I just remember this overwhelming sensation of emotion driving through me. This is what you're picking up almost every day, with almost everyone.
And look, it's obviously a real privilege to help people do their family history because, as you've described, when you make that connection with an ancestor, the emotion that comes is almost unpredictable. It's so powerful, and it's hard to realise that you can have that connection to an ancestor from, you know, what seems like so long ago.
Especially our military service.
Absolutely.
And our veterans, both men and women who were able to serve. Do you dig up much on our women serving as well?
Absolutely, that's another big focus for us, of course. So we've had many stories coming from that side of it.
I was just going to say those special little details as well that just gives you such an insight into their character that they wouldn't have otherwise shared. So
Exactly.
special.
How do people do it?
It's quite easy. All you need to do is go to Ancestry.com. So Ancestry.com, as I said, is a database of billions of records. And all people need to do is put in some information that they know, typically a first name and a surname. And from there, the website kind of does the rest.
Any scallywags in the history?
Well, you might not be surprised to learn I also come from a long line of beer brewers.
Queenslander!
It all makes sense now.
See, it helps you to connect the dots in life.
Balance. It's all about balance,
Exactly.
right? Thank you so much for coming in,
beautiful
Jason.
segment. Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much.
sharing your stories over it. So
No
wonderful.
worries.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Pleasure.
More information on our website as well.
Hey there, Today fans. Sarah and
What's my name again?
Oh my goodness, Carl.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel, though. Subscribe now for more news, special reports, and amazing Aussie stories.
And Carl misbehaving,
Whoa,
of course.
that never happens.
Always happens.
What's she talking about?